गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। वणकम एंड जय हिंद। आज हम एक इम्पोर्टेंट सब्जेक्ट ले रहे हैं। इज देयर अ स्पाइक इन द प्रॉक्सी वॉर? क्या प्रॉक्सी वॉर में एक स्पाइक आया है कि नहीं? और ये इम्पोर्टेंट विषय के बारे में बात करने के लिए मेरे साथ जनरल अता हसनैन और जनरल विनोद भाटिया हैं। और जनरल सतीश दुआ वो आज आ नहीं सके किसी कारण, पर उनका जो उन्होंने बोलना था उसका रिकॉर्डेड वॉइस आपको बता दूंगा। सर, गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गन शॉट वंस अगेन। इट्स एन ऑनर फॉर मी टू हैव बोथ ऑफ you here.
Jai Hind, Jai Hind. Good evening to all of viewers.
Great to be on the same platform.
Right. Now, what I'll do, sir, is I'll give an overview of what the whole story is all about, and then I'll request General Ata Hasnain to give his point of view, and followed by General Vinod Bhatia, and then we'll go along. तो सबसे पहले I'll give a small presentation, और ये इस प्रकार चलता है कि क्या is there a proxy war? Yes, of course there's a proxy war. तो इसका क्या कारण है ये देखना पड़ेगा। अगर आप ये देखेंगे तो पिछले 20 साल में you see that the terrorism and the casualties and everything has gone down drastically. आप देखिए 2000, 2001, 5 कितने 2000 से ज्यादा कैजुअलिटीज हुए। अभी तो आपको ये लाइन नजर ही नहीं आता, राइट? फिर ये प्रॉक्सी वॉर का स्पाइक के बारे में हम क्यों बात कर रहे हैं, इसके लिए one has to look at this a little more granularly. अगर हम नजदीक से देखेंगे तो you'll see that what are the casualties to the security forces, terrorists, and what's the ratios. And I took this data from 2018 to the present day. अगर आप देखेंगे तो 2019 तक the number of security forces casualties to the terrorist ratio is pretty high, 35 to 47%. But after the Article 370 was scrapped, it has fallen drastically. But इस साल देखिए ये 33% हो गया. There's a spike. हालांकि the overall numbers are less, right? Just 84 terrorists have been killed, but the number of SF casualties are almost proportional to 2022. Obviously there's a spike, and we have to be worried about it. Okay. Now, अगर आप देखेंगे जो ज्यादातर ये कैजुअलिटीज हुए हैं अलोंग द पीर पंजाल रेंज। ये मैप में ऊपर ये ब्राउन लाइन है, ये तकरीबन पीर पंजाल रेंज है, और ऊपर श्रीनगर अनंतनाग का वो कश्मीर का घाटी है, एंड ऑन द साउथ इज द हिल सेक्टर ऑफ राजौरी. Now what one sees is, and what one hears in the news also, is that the terrorists are luring our security forces and killing them. And two trend lines more. There's a disproportionate loss of security force, special forces personnel, which is alarming as far as all of us are concerned, and it's a matter of concern to all of us. And there's a disproportionate loss of officers. In that Anantnag and Kokarnag incident, we lost a commanding officer and a DSP. And now, south of Rajouri in the Kalakot area, we've lost 2 more officers, all within a matter of 2 months. So is there something which we are missing? Or is there some course correction which we have to do? And what's more, the Northern Army commander ने बताया है कि retired Pakistani soldiers are here. Are they retired or they've been made to retire and brought here? So that means there's another dimension of this whole story which is cropping up. And then you also see LAT has come out with this notification. And I think it's the Gaza effect or the Hamas effect. A domino effect, क्योंकि वहां जो हुआ है यहाँ भी कुछ इन्होंने करके दिखाना है. So what are they talking of? They're talking of targeting high profile personalities. They're talking of targeting strategic installations. Even PM, they've mentioned. They're talking of storming security posts and targeting tourists and non-locals. तो ये है माहौल आज के दिन जो LAT फैला रहा है. And this is the trend line which I think has propped up this little spike. इसके लिए हमें कुछ करना पड़ेगा, सोच विचार करना पड़ेगा, so that we stem the problem, right? So this is what the actual state and ground is. And we have a a DGMO and a co-commander, and another co-commander of 15 corps will weigh in shortly. So we'll first give way to the ex-GOC of 15 corps, General Ata Hasnain, sir. All yours. Please take on.
Thank you and Jai Hind. Thank you, General Shankar, for inviting me for this program. I think this is very important, very timely what we are doing at the moment. मैं भी हिंदी और अंग्रेजी में साथ साथ मेल जोड़ कर के बोलूंगा. मैं समझता हूं कि आपने जो सेटिंग की है इस डिस्कशन की बहुत आला दर्जे की है. You really put it out in the correct way. The statistics, particularly the observations that you have made, and this advisory of the LET, the manner in which it's been put across, I think this is all very important. मेरे ख्याल में हमारे ऑडियंस को यह भी मालूम होना चाहिए कि इस प्रोग्राम पे आपके साथ हम दोनों, जनरल विनोद भाटिया और मैं दोनों हैं. हम दोनों कोर्समेट भी हैं. इसके अलावा हम एक साथ जीओसी रहे हैं, कोर के तो नहीं मगर 19 डिव के और 25 डिव के. 19 डिव और 25 डिव की जो बाउंड्री है उसी पर तकरीबन आप समझिए कि ये सब प्रॉब्लम जो है वो हो रहे हैं. 2008-9 में 7-8 में जनरल भाटिया साहब जीओसी 25 डिव थे जो साउथ ऑफ पीर पंजाल है, और मैं जीओसी 19 डिव था नॉर्थ ऑफ पीर पंजाल. तो उस वक्त भी हम बहुत सिंक्रोनाइज करके अपने ऑपरेशंस यहां करते थे. अब जो है जो स्थिति जो आपने डिस्क्राइब की है इस समय, मेरे ख्याल से 2-3 चीजें इसमें अहमियत की रखती हैं राइट इन द बिगिनिंग. फर्स्टली, पाकिस्तान के अंदर कुछ तहलका मचा हुआ है, और इस हम रिलेट करते हैं 2019 से कि 2019 से अभी 2023 तक 4 साल में मिलिटेंसी टेररिज्म के जो स्टैटिस्टिक्स हैं, सब पैरामीटर्स हैं, वो काफी हद तक ड्रॉप हो गए हैं. मगर जो आपने दिखाया अभी परसेंटेज वाइज देखें तो परसेंटेज अभी भी स्लाइटली वरीसम है. अगर इसको हम और थोड़ा तफसील के साथ देखें तो इसमें मालूम होता है कि देखिए पाकिस्तान ने जो अपना इंटेंशन नहीं छोड़ा है अभी तक. उनका इंटेंशन है कि हमने 25 साल इसके अंदर लगाए हैं, 30 साल कश्मीर में लगाए हैं, हम इतनी जल्दी से पीछे नहीं हट सकते हैं. So a certain investment has been made. They will want to reap the dividends and benefits of that. ये जो 2019 का डेवलपमेंट था उसको वो एक ट्रीट कर रहे हैं एज ए टेम्पररी ब्रेक, ए टेम्पररी आप समझ सकते हैं सेटबैक, एंड दे फील कि कभी ना कभी हाल में इन द नियर फ्यूचर ए सिचुएशन विल अराइज व्हेन दे कैन कम बैक इनटू द होल पिक्चर. उसके लिए जरूरी है कि सब कुछ जो उन्होंने यहां फैलाया था उसको कायम रखें, which essentially means कैशेज होने चाहिए, टेररिस्ट रिसोर्सेज होने चाहिए, नेटवर्क्स होने चाहिए, ओवरग्राउंड वर्कर्स होने चाहिए, इन्फॉर्मर्स होने चाहिए. ये सब चीजें कायम रहनी चाहिए. अगर ये सब नष्ट हो गया तो आगे मिलिटेंसी को दोबारा रिवाइव करने में बहुत ज्यादा मुश्किल होगा. तो देखा जा रहा है कि कश्मीर घाटी में तो इन्फिल्ट्रेशन के जो ग्रिड लगा हुआ है वो तो लेयर्ड ग्रिड है, 4-5 लेयर्स हैं उसके, उसको पेनिट्रेट करके अंदर आना बड़ा मुश्किल है. कश्मीर के अंदर, घाटी के अंदर ओवरग्राउंड वर्कर्स के ऊपर भी बहुत छापे पड़े हैं. सेफ हाउसेस जो हैं वो भी जो है ज्यादातर हट गए हैं. फाइनेंशियल नेटवर्क्स जो है वो भी काफी हद तक न्यूट्रलाइज हो गए हैं, क्योंकि फोकस जो है जम्मू कश्मीर का, पुलिस का, इंटेलिजेंस ब्यूरो का, आर्मी का यहां ज्यादा रहा है. तो to revive the whole thing in Kashmir is almost well nigh impossible. और टेररिस्ट स्ट्रेंथ को बढ़ाना थ्रू ए सर्ज इन इन्फिल्ट्रेशन मैं समझता हूं बहुत ज्यादा चैलेंजिंग है पाकिस्तान के लिए इस वक्त. तो अगर मैं उस पार बैठा होता और मैं इसको एक दुश्मन की नजर से उधर से देखता इसको, तो मैं कहता कौन सी कमजोरी है अभी भारत की. और वो देखते कि ये जो एरिया नीचे का है, रजौरी के, पुंछ से रजौरी, रजौरी से अखनूर का जो इलाका है, इसमें पहले तो बड़ी फौजें होती थी. यहां पर 16 कोर जो था ये दुनिया का, कहते हैं दुनिया का नहीं, मतलब इट वाज द बिगेस्ट कोर एनीवेयर इन द वर्ल्ड. वो अब डिवाइड हो गया बाद में. उसके रिसोर्सेज जो थे, जो ईस्टर्न कमांड से रिसोर्सेज बहुत से आए थे वो हट गए. जो कमांड के अंदर नॉर्दर्न कमांड के रिसोर्सेज थे वो हट गए. तो यहां का जो ग्रिड है थोड़ा कमजोर पड़ गया। मुझे याद है 2011-12 में कुछ यूनिटें आरआर की यहां से मेरे पास आई थी ऊपर, क्योंकि सब समझते थे कि दारोमदार जो है वो घाटी में है। अब दारोमदार घाटी से हट गया है, वो यहां इस इलाके में आ गया। दुश्मन यही तो करता है हर दफे, फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी रखता है, फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी ऑफ अप्रोच रखता है। वो भी देख रहा है वहां से, और जब ऑब्जर्व कर रहा है स्ट्रेटेजिकली, वो देख रहा है कि भारत की जो कमजोरी है वो अब घाटी में नहीं, अब इस रजौरी के इलाके में है। इसका फायदा उठाओ। ये इलाका भी डेमोग्राफिकली जो है, ऐसा तो नहीं है कि इसने कभी सपोर्ट ही नहीं किया है पाकिस्तान को। यहां सपोर्ट रही है पाकिस्तान की बहुत, और अभी भी शायद पाकिस्तान की सपोर्ट है। यहां पर शायद साइकोलॉजिकल ऑपरेशन भारत की फौज के बहुत कम हुए हैं कंपैरेटिवली, और जो फोकस देश का रहा है हर चीज की तरफ से घाटी की तरफ, वो इस इलाके में नहीं रहा है। तो ये कमजोरियां जो है उनका फायदा उठाया जा रहा है। अब जब फौजें कम है और इन्फिल्ट्रेशन, काउंटर इन्फिल्ट्रेशन गेट भी थोड़ा कमजोर हो चुका है, लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल की जो फेंसिंग है उसका दारोमदार जो था पहले, वो अब वो दारोमदार नहीं रहा। वो उसके ऊपर जो क्षमता पहले थी, जो लोगों का रिलायंस था, वो नहीं है। मैं समझता हूं कि घाटी के अंदर वो अभी भी जारी है, यहां कम हो गया है। हालांकि 16 कोर ने शुरुआत तो एलसी फेंसिंग की 16 कोर से हुई थी, और उसके बाद ये 15 कोर में गया था, मगर 16 कोर के अंदर कुछ कमजोरियां शायद फेंसिंग की पड़ गई हैं। ये मेरे ऑब्जर्वेशंस हैं बाहर के तौर पे, और काफी डिस्कशन के साथ कुछ लोगों के साथ जो वहां सर्व कर रहे हैं इस वक्त, मैं समझता हूं इनके ऊपर काफी हमें जोर देना चाहिए। 2-3-4 बातें और बताऊंगा मैं इससे पहले कि मैं अपनी टिप्पणी खत्म करूं। ये ऐतिहासिक तौर पे इसको देखें तो ये इलाका जो है वो है जहां पर मुश्किल से मुश्किल भारत की फौज को बहुत मुश्किल हुआ है टैकल करना। पहले भी 2003 में सब विनाश ऑपरेशन हमने लॉन्च किया था यहां पर, काफी अरसे के बाद, जब मालूम हुआ था इंटेलिजेंस सोर्सेस से कि एक गढ़ बन चुका है हिलकाका में, और उसको हमने एड्रेस किया था। जब हमने एड्रेस किया था बड़े बड़े फॉर्मेशन के साथ, हमने जब एड्रेस किया था, तो वहां से हमने तकरीबन जो हाइड आउट्स थे वो नष्ट कर दिए थे। अगर कोई ऑब्जर्व कर रहा है उस पार से, वो देख रहा होगा कि भारत की फौज को हिलकाका के इलाके में हायर ट्रैक्ट्स ऑफ पीर पंजाल के ऊपर ऑपरेशंस करने में हिचकिचाहट होती है, क्योंकि इसके अंदर काफी फोर्सेस लगानी पड़ती हैं, और इसके लिए काफी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर क्रिएट करना पड़ता है, वक्त लगता है। तो इसलिए ज्यादा अच्छा है कि इसी इलाके में हम दोबारा हाइड आउट्स बनाकर वहीं से हम फोरेज करें, नीचे इन गांव में आए, गांव वालों के साथ मेलजोल करें, और वहां उस तरफ से हम अट्रैक्ट करें, भारत की फौज को अट्रैक्ट करें अपने तरफ, which is what is being spoken of today, attracting, luring the forces that side. और हम वो समझते होंगे कि इस ब्रोकन ग्राउंड में, जंगलात के इलाके में, which is very conducive to people who are in defense, जो छुपे हुए हैं, उनके लिए एडवांटेज है। वो समझते हैं, उनका जो कॉन्सेप्ट है ऑपरेशंस का वो है कि हमको वो मूवमेंट में रखें और खुद जो है छुपाव में है, और उससे जो है वो कैजुअलिटीज कॉज कर सकते हैं। इससे क्या है, लगातार ये कैजुअलिटी के फिगर्स भारत की फौज के बढ़ते रहेंगे, और एक उम्मीद जागृत रहेगी पॉपुलेशन के अंदर, जो समझते हैं कि पॉपुलेशन अभी भी उनके साथ है। तो ये इनका जो कॉन्सेप्ट है। आखिर में मैं कहता हूं कि हमको करना क्या चाहिए, मेजर्स क्या करने चाहिए। मैं समझता हूं कि सबसे पहले थोड़ा रीडिप्लॉयमेंट की जरूरत है। जो महाराष्ट्र राइफल्स की यूनिट्स नॉर्थ में 15 कोर में है, उनको हटकर शायद नीचे लाना ही चाहिए, क्योंकि ये इलाका थोड़ा कमजोर पड़ गया है। इस इलाके में कुछ रिसोर्सेज ऑलरेडी आ चुकी हैं बाहर से, मतलब कमांड के रिजर्व्स के से कुछ आ चुकी हैं, वो अच्छी बात है, मगर इसकी तादाद और बढ़ानी पड़ेगी। नीचे के एरियाज जो हैं जहां सिक्योरिटी देना जरूरी है, सड़कों के ऊपर एटसेट्रा, मेरे ख्याल में सीआरपीएफ का डिप्लॉयमेंट कुछ थोड़ा और बढ़ाना चाहिए, और स्ट्राइक फोर्सेस जो है आरआर और स्पेशल फोर्सेस को यहां स्ट्राइक के तौर पे रखना चाहिए। मैं समझता हूं कि स्पेशल फोर्सेस का यहां पर बहुत बड़ा रोल है। वी शुड ट्राई एंड गेट एन एडिशनल और स्पेशल फोर्सेस यूनिट हियर। हालांकि हमारी यूनिट्स हैं वो बहुत काबिल है, मगर एक और यूनिट यहां आ जाए तो एक तो तजुर्बा बहुत मिलेगा उनको, और दूसरा उनको यहां पर एक चांस मिलेगा ऑपरेट करने का। दूसरी बात, इसको इन ऑपरेशंस को सैडो के तरीके से नहीं, सर्च एंड डिस्ट्रॉय ऑपरेशंस के तरह नहीं कंडक्ट करना चाहिए। देयर आर डिफरेंट वेज ऑफ कंडक्टिंग व्हिच आई वुड नॉट लाइक टू डिस्कस openly in this on a public forum, मगर there are lots and lots of techniques जो हमने 15 कोर में अपनाई थी। जनरल केजेएस ढिलन जब ब्रिगेड कमांडर थे मेरे नीचे, उनके साथ मिलकर हमने ये सब वहां पर अपनाए थे तरीके, हफरूदा फॉरेस्ट में, राजवार फॉरेस्ट में, और सफाया कर दिया था टेररिस्ट का वहां पर 2011-12 में। हमने वो तरीके दोबारा हमको यहां पर अपनाने चाहिए। और आखिर में मैं समझता हूं काउंटर इन्फिल्ट्रेशन पोस्चर जो 16 कोर का है, इसके अंदर कुछ बढ़ोतरी होकर और एक कॉन्फिडेंस दोबारा जागृत करनी चाहिए हमारी एलसी फेंसिंग के ऊपर, नहीं तो ये लीकेजेस यहां पर होते रहेंगे। आखिरी चीज, जो लिंकेज गुरदासपुर, पठानकोट, कठुआ, सांबा के साथ भी है, इसका हमें निगरानी इसके ऊपर रखनी चाहिए। ये इस इलाके में ये मिलिटेंसी जागृत हो रही है इस वजह से कि पाकिस्तान के पास आसान हो जाएगा सिख मिलिटेंसी और जम्मू बेस्ड मिलिटेंसी को कोऑर्डिनेट करने के लिए। मैं यहां पर अपना केस रेस्ट करता हूं।
थैंक यू सर, आपने बहुत अहम चीज दो चार बताया, रीडिप्लॉयमेंट, कंट्रोल ऑफ पीर पंजाल, द सेंट्रलिटी ऑफ, जो आप बात निकाल के आया आपके टॉक में, द सेंट्रलिटी ऑफ पीर पंजाल रेंजेस, क्योंकि वहां से वो नॉर्थ में भी अटैक कर सकते हैं और साउथ में भी हावी हो सकते हैं। राइट, आई विल कम बैक टू यू लेटर। जनरल विनोद भाटिया सर, ऑल योर्स, द फ्लोर इज योर्स।
थैंक यू, जय हिंद। आपके प्लेटफॉर्म पे आके मुझे अच्छा लगता है, कासा और जनशंकर। मैंने सोचा था आप मुझे पहले बोलने को बोलेंगे, पर जनरल अता हसन जब बोल देते हैं उसका बोलने कोई बचता नहीं है।
नहीं सर, ऐसी बात नहीं है, ऐसी बात नहीं है। हाँ, मैंने आपने एक मिनट, I have learned from both of you. Okay, I'm your junior. Both of you have much more to give. So while he is there, you have to speak, and you have a lot to speak, especially because you are part of the special forces.
वो उनकी नॉलेज नहीं बोलूंगा, विजडम जो है और जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग है कश्मीर की खास तौर से, with 8 tenures there, is unmatched, unprecedented. और मुझे याद है एज अ डीजीएमओ मैंने उनको कॉल किया, वाज द मिलिट्री सेक्रेटरी, मैंने कहा वे फोर्समेट्स लाइक हम हर दूसरे तीसरे दिन बात करते थे आपस में, वी यूज्ड टू कोऑर्डिनेट दैट ग्रे एरिया ऑफ पीर पंजाल, एंड इट वाज नॉट बैड। आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि अभी कोऑर्डिनेशन हुआ, मैं ये नहीं बोलता। तो मैंने उनको बोला, मैंने कहा हमने स्ट्रेटजी बनानी है, मैं आपके पास आ रहा हूं चाय पीने के लिए। नॉर्मली होता नहीं है, तो आई टुक अ लॉट ऑफ इनपुट्स फ्रॉम हिम एंड स्टिल बैंक ऑन हिम फॉर लॉट ऑफ इनपुट्स, एंड थैंक यू वेरी मच। अभी आप बोलते हैं स्पाइक, आई डोंट थिंक देयर एनी स्पाइक इन वॉलेस लेवल्स। वॉलेस लेवल्स जो है जम्मू एंड कश्मीर सब क्रिटिकल है, और ये फिगर्स हैं, स्टैटिस्टिक्स हैं, और आपने दिखाया, वो जो कर्व आपने दिखाया है कंट्रोलेबल है। अनफॉर्चुनेटली हाई प्रोफाइल टेररिस्ट अटैक्स जो हैं वो बढ़ गए हैं, हमारी कैजुअलिटीज बढ़ गई हैं। 1:3 की रेशियो 33%, जो कि 1:8 और 10 होना चाहिए, होना तो 0:2 होना चाहिए, लेकिन होता नहीं है ऐसे, क्योंकि जब बुलेट्स फायर होंगी कोई ना कोई तो नहीं उसमें, तो वो हमें सोचना पड़ेगा कि उसको कम कैसे करा जाए और उसकी विजिबिलिटी को कम कैसे करा जाए। जो विजिबिलिटी है, ऐसे लोगों को लगता है कि कश्मीर में दहशत है, टेररिज्म है, लगता है कि वो टीवी पे आते हैं देखते हैं। द फैक्ट इज दैट इट इज नॉट सो। Kashmir is seeing a peace dividend after 2019. The violence levels subcritical है और नॉर्मल एक्टिविटीज वहां पर हो रही हैं, इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट है, एजुकेशन चल रही है। पहले हर दूसरे दिन स्कूल बंद हो जाते थे, अब नहीं होते हैं। तो देयर लॉट ऑफ एक्टिविटीज व्हिच नीड टू बी हाइलाइटेड एक्चुअली इन द राइट फोरम, बट दीज स्मॉल इंसिडेंट्स व्हिच हैपन वेयर वी सफर डिस्प्रोपोर्शनेट कैजुअलिटीज, that has to be, that has to be looked into, because that gives the impression to our जनरल पब्लिक कि कश्मीर की हालत खराब है। अगर देखें टूरिज्म वहां बढ़ गई है, अभी जो भी आप देखें उनके जितने पैरामीटर्स हैं वहां पर वो बढ़ गए हैं। ओपन वहां पर लोग घूमते हैं रात को, पहले रात को नहीं चलता था वहां पर। So that lot of good changes have taken place. I'm not going to go to the details. The fact is, I think we need to look into कि ये जो हाई प्रोफाइल टेररिस्ट अटैक्स हैं इनको कंटेन कैसे करा जाए, और हमारी कैजुअलिटीज कम, मिनिमाइज द कैजुअलिटीज, बिकॉज कैजुअलिटीज गिव विजिबिलिटी एंड टेररिज्म टेररिज्म थ्राइव्स एंड लिव्स ऑन दहशत, जिसको बोलते हैं, वो दहशत फैलाते हैं। मैं ये मानने को तैयार नहीं हूँ कि वो एक्स सोल्जर्स आए, वो बहुत अच्छे ट्रेंड है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है। मतलब मैं तो बिल्कुल साफ बोलूंगा, अगर उनके एक्स सोल्जर्स भी हैं तो क्या फर्क पड़ता है, आने दो उनको, वो आएंगे, आज नहीं तो कल तो मरेंगे ही मरेंगे, उनको मरना ही है, उनको तो मरने के लिए आते हैं, वो मार देंगे उनको। बट जब उनको मारते हैं, वी विल हैव टू लुक एट आवर ओन सेल्व्स। मैं दो चार, मैं ये नहीं बोलूंगा, मैं क्रिटिसाइज नहीं कर रहा हूँ उनको, क्योंकि मैं भी ग्राउंड पे नहीं हूँ, और जो ग्राउंड पे है वो बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं। अनफॉर्चुनेटली ऑफसेलेट ऑपरेशन होते हैं, छोटे ऑपरेशन ऑफसेलेट होते हैं। हमारे ऑफिसर्स हमेशा लीड करते हैं फ्रंट से। हमारी एक ही जब आप मैनेजमेंट स्कूल में जाते हैं, आपको लीडरशिप क्वालिटीज सिखाई जाती हैं, लीडरशिप टेक्निक सिखाई जाती हैं, एक ही लीडरशिप होती है, वो है मेरे पीछे मूव। और कोई इसमें दो राय नहीं है, दो तरीका नहीं है। मेरे पीछे मूव जो होता है उसमें ऑफिसर को ही लीड करना पड़ता है, एंड जहाँ क्रिटिकलिटी होगी वो ऑफिसर ही लीड करेगा। ऑब्वियसली जो ऑफिसर लीड करेगा, ऑफिसर कैजुअलिटी ज्यादा होगा। अनएक्सेप्टेबल दो, बट दैट्स अ फैक्ट। What we need to actually look into is, I think I may be totally wrong in this, and do correct me, General, if I'm wrong. I think there is you know, uh, two things that stand out as far as I'm concerned. My reading goes. One is a lot of dependent on technology, right? वो बहुत सारे उनका इनपुट्स आ रहे हैं, बहुत ज़्यादा इनपुट्स आ रहे हैं, बिकॉज वहाँ पर टेक्नोलॉजी है, एंड दैट टेक्नोलॉजी से क्या होता है कि वी बिकम सर्टन दैट दिस इज द करेक्ट इंफॉर्मेशन, इट वॉन्ट बी सो राइट, एंड दैट इम्पैक्ट्स आर टैक्टिक्स। टैक्टिक्स जो है, गुड टैक्टिक्स का कोई दो राय नहीं है। द टैक्टिक्स हैव टू बी गुड, you have to be patient, you cannot rush. There's always in a hurry because of the media glare to finish our operation fast, which should not be there, but it is there. It is human tendency. uh, it is a human thing, and that is how I think we need to look at it. Are we lacking in tactics? I don't think we're lacking, but the fact remains that we are suffering casualties, and we have to understand the causative factors की क्या है। ये causative effect analysis करना पड़ेगा कि इतनी casualties क्यों हो रही हैं। जनरल हसन ने बिल्कुल ठीक बोला, वॉइड क्रिएट करें हमने। वॉइड्स जब होते हैं, टेररिज्म लाइक वाटर, जहां पर जगह मिलेगी वहां जाएगा। तो और काला कोट में पहले 27 डिव होती थी, वो निकल गई, उसका यूनिफॉर्म्स होती थी, वो निकल गई। तो देयर इज लिमिट टू व्हाट द ट्रूप्स जो ऑन ग्राउंड है, थिनिंग आउट होती है वहां पर। 2000 जैसे जनरल 2008-9 में वहां से थिनिंग आउट हुई थी, और 15 कोर में जब 2011-12 में 15 कोर में ट्रूप भेजे गए। तो जहां जहां थिनिंग आउट होगी, वहां वहां टेररिज्म थोड़ा सा ज्यादा फैलेगी। जहां तक इन्फिल्ट्रेशन ग्रिड का सवाल है, वी नीड टू कीप अपग्रेडिंग इट। वो भी अपग्रेड करते रहते हैं, जो टेररिज्म है वहां पर अपग्रेड करते हैं। हम भी टेररिज्म को, हम भी काउंटर इन्फिल्ट्रेशन ग्रिड को अपने अपग्रेड करना चाहिए, एल डिफेंस को अपग्रेड करना चाहिए। दिस इज अ गिवन एक्चुअली। हर रिव्यू लेना पड़ेगा, कैसे करना है, कैसे नहीं करना है, उसको स्टडी करना पड़ेगा, एंड स्टडी करते हैं, ऐसी बात नहीं करते, करना पड़ेगा, एंड करेक्टिव एक्शन लेना पड़ेगा। द की चैलेंज विल बी हाउ टू हैंडल द मीडिया ग्लेयर। ठीक है, कैजुअलिटीज होंगी और मीडिया ग्लेयर भी होगा, उसको कैसे हैंडल करना है, उसको कैसे मिनिमाइज करना है। जो हमारे देशवासी हैं, हमारे जो देश हैं, उनको जो सिग्नल जाता है वो एक गलत सिग्नल जाता है कि जम्मू एंड कश्मीर में टेररिज्म बहुत ज्यादा है। अगर आप देखें, इट इज नॉट सो, एंड एट द कॉस्ट ऑफ रेपुटेशन, आफ्टर द उड़ी attacks and after our surgical strikes in Uri and thereafter followed by Pulwama and Balakot, जम्मू एंड कश्मीर के बाद बाहर, जम्मू एंड कश्मीर के बाहर मैं कह रहा हूँ, टेररिस्ट अटैक्स नहीं हुए हैं। लेकिन इसका ये मतलब नहीं हो सकते हैं, हो सकते हैं। खास तौर से ये जो जिसको हम आईबी सेक्टर बोलते हैं, गुरदासपुर में पहले हुआ था, सांबा में हुआ था, तो हमें वहां पर ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि जो इन्फिल्ट्रेशन ग्रिड हमारा ऊपर है उसको हमको नॉट ओनली कायम रखना पड़ेगा, उसको हमको और बढ़ाना पड़ेगा। मैं इतना बोलूँ, दो चीजें और बताना चाहूंगा सिर्फ, कि उसमें जो है हमारे जो एक तो हमें पेशेंस रखना चाहिए, जल्दी नहीं करनी चाहिए। तो प्रेशर आता है, सब पे आता है, जो जो वहां पर बैठे हैं उनको कर रहे हैं, उनको लगता है कि आज जल्दी से ऑपरेशन खत्म करें और उनको उनकी अपनी मुलाकात करवा दें, जो भी 72 गोलियां जो भी है। उससे मुलाकात करवाते हैं। लेकिन टाइम लगाना पड़ेगा ऑपरेशंस में, और मीडिया को जो ग्लेयर को थोड़ा कम करना पड़ेगा, और टैक्टिक्स को हमें अपग्रेड करना पड़ेगा। आई एम श्योर दे आर डूइंग इट, टैक्टिक्स आर बीइंग अपग्रेडेड, वी हैव टू स्टडी द होल थिंग। एंड लास्ट बट नॉट द लीस्ट, वी विश एवरीवन ऑपरेटिंग देयर द वेरी बेस्ट। उनकी जान सलामती बहुत जरूरी है, और वो हमारे लिए बहुत, मैं उनको सल्यूट करता हूँ। इट्स नॉट ईजी यहाँ बैठ के दिल्ली में बैठना, कहीं पर बैठ के बात करना, आपके चैनल में भी बहुत आसान है, लेकिन वहां पर जब घुटने रगड़ने पड़ते हैं, दिमाग खर्च करना पड़ता है, और जब बुलेट्स फायर करनी पड़ती है तो बहुत मुश्किल है। और हमको धैर्य रखना पड़ेगा, हमको विश्वास रखना पड़ेगा अपनी फौज पे। एंड आई एंड विद दैट, जय हिंद।
थैंक यू सर, आपने 2-3 important पॉइंट्स जो आपने बताया कि the situation is not as bad it is made out, and the media is hyping it more than necessary. And of course the other reality is high profile targeting will continue. We should expect, and this is something which we have to prepare for. इसके बारे में मैं वापस आपके पास ही आऊंगा कि how do we handle this. But right now, I had spoken earlier in the evening with General Satish Dua, and he also commanded 15 Corps, और उनका राय ये था, आप जरा देख सुनिए.
To address this question that you raised, I am going to make 3 broad points. The first one starts with the fact that it has been 4 years since Article 370 was diluted. Ever since then, we have seen an improvement in situation in the valley in every aspect. There has been reduction in violence, reduction in stone pelting, reduction in number of encounters and killings. The tourists are improving, business opportunities are improving, many more institutional growth is taking place, grassroots democracy has been strengthened by panchayats elections. So all this put together, the terrorists are apprehensive of this feeling of normalcy setting in the minds of people. So they want to disrupt that. They want to instill a sense of fear. Also, what is happening is that their support base, because of these improvements, the support base in the valley per se is dwindling. So what do the terrorists do? They have to instill minds in the fear in the minds of people. And what they've done is because of the support base dwindling, they have moved towards the jungles. And as your map showed, moving towards the mountains and forests, they're moving to South Kashmir, south of Anantnag, and that's the Pir Panjal range. This incident that happened in Kokarnag, that is exactly in this northern face of Pir Panjal. And if you see Rajouri Punch areas are on the southern side of the same Pir Panjal ranges. The area of Kalakot where this recent encounter took place. Earlier on, it was in between Punch and Rajouri that thing has taken place. There are the Berirak forest, Hilkaka forest, the Kalakot forest. There are dense forests in these areas. So they're making use of these forests. They are trying to target security forces, to demoralize security forces, now that they are not able to operate so freely in the inhabited areas. And as we've heard earlier in this program, what has happened is that they're trying to lure people, lure security forces. So in some of these operations, it looks that the source is compromised and the security forces have reached there with a bit of, if I may say, with a bit of overconfidence that they know exactly where they're going. And in forested areas, before a cordon is established, the terrain favors an infiltrator who's lying, I beg your pardon, a terrorist who's lying in wait to ambush the security forces. And that is what has happened in a couple of these operations. They have opened fire before a cordon could be established. So that is the first point that I wish to make. Second, a high number of casualties. Yes, your graph, empirical data showed that our security forces to hit and kill ratio has gone up to 33%. Now, which is a spike. One reason I've already mentioned, that the terrorists now want to, they are trying to lure in the security forces and take action. The second, I would hazard a guess, in most of these cases, you have seen that special forces are involved, and special forces are buying a lot of casualties. To my mind, what also happens is that special forces move in as troubleshooters in an intended area or in an area of operation. The unit that is responsible for that area generates the intelligence and lays the outer cordon. So there is last minute coordination, and that training kicks in, and there is always good coordination. But in some cases, maybe the coordination falters. And in that, you also mentioned that we are buying a lot of officer casualties. These officer casualties show two things. One, it does show, and we're proud to say that, it does show that the young leaders, the officers, always lead from the front. However, I would also caution that sometimes it could also be an overconfidence, because nowadays operations are very few compared to when we were colonels and they were when I was commanding a unit, and when we went into operations and we had encounters every week or every fortnight. When operations are less, there is bound to be an element of overconfidence that comes in, and that's why we've bought the casualties in the beginning of the operations, in most of these operations. The third point that I will the last point that I would like to make is the way we gather intelligence nowadays. When back then, when I was a company commander or even a commanding officer, mobile phones were not. There were no mobile phones in J&K. They came, I think, in 2006 or 7, somewhere there. When there were no mobile phones, we relied purely on human intelligence. We cultivated sources, and we got intelligence from all other sources, but we did not have any tech int worth the name. With a lot of mobile phones coming in, we are getting very good tech int in the last 2 decades. Tech int has been very effective, and it has given us some very good operations. But I have been generally a votary of the fact that we need to have a healthy mix of human and tech in to corroborate each other. Thank you, Jan Shankar.
Right. Thanks a lot, sir. We have now gone over. आप देखेंगे कि आप तीनों ने अपना अपना राय बताया, 2 कोर कमांडर और एक डीजीएमओ, और वो डीजीएमओ जो साउथ ऑफ पीर पंजाल, जिसने अपना डिव कमांड किया था. तो बात यह है कि आप तीनों ने जो बोला है तकरीबन almost the same things which you have put across, in some form or the other. So we'll touch upon 3 important points which have come out of this whole story so far. आगे जाके और भी हो सकता है. So the first thing, the point which has come out is, ये जो पीर पंजाल range is a critical area which has traditionally been a problem for us, where terrain is difficult and all that. With the reduction in militancy and everything, with the the kind of pressure we put on militants in the valley, and also in the lower reaches of Rajouri, Naushara, and those areas, this Pir Panjal has become some kind of a base to revive the terrorism of proxy war by Pakistan, and they'll go all out. That's what we all spoken. So how do we offset this? How do we tackle this? We have to think differently to do this. Hasnain sir, your views on this, because I think this is the center of gravity at this point of time to minimize many things and also deny space to Pakistan.
Thank you. Firstly, let me reinforce what my friend John Vinod Bhatia has said. Then I will come diving into the question which you have put across. The first is fully endorse this aspect of speed of operations. You see, many times in the past also, people have asked me, in the media has asked me, 3 days have gone past and you have still not been able to reduce a hideout which you have had cordoned off. And I would always say, why 3 days? I will give 3 weeks to my troops. 3 weeks to my troops. We have to go in deliberately. We are not looking for casualties. We are looking for casualties to the terrorists. Unfortunately, there is a tendency today to speed up operations. And this is because of media pressure to a great extent, and also the fact that operations are far and few. And the glare of everything comes onto that operation. The moment it starts elongating a little bit, this problem comes up. That is one. Second thing, again, I go back and repeat again. You see, you can't conduct these operations in a typical search and destroy operation mode. You have to go in, be present, omnipresent in a large number of places simultaneously to prevent reinforcement by terrorists within their own ranks, movement, the ability to get away, etc. What we need is, when you have 3, 4, 5, or 7 terrorists in a particular area, you probably need to go in, seek a contact, but simultaneously have more troops on your flanks to prevent any, a movement by the terrorists here and there. This is a typical thing in jungle warfare which happens. Now, I find today in today's environment, in jungle terrain, people think that you can move 5, 7, 8 kilometers in a day to a search operation. I have the experience of the thickest jungles of the world in the Vani jungle area of Sri Lanka. I can tell you, at no stage did I go more than 2.5 kilometers in a day. I stopped all my operations at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, deliberately went into hides. I mean, these operations have to be conducted very, very differently. Why are we talking about difference today? People will say, weren't you doing the same thing in the past? Conflict always changes. The nature of conflict changes. This is what the media, people outside who are observing, can never think about this. You had a different kind of conflict configuration. General Satish Dua was talking about a contact in 7 days and a contact in 15 days. But let me tell you, as Colonel GS of the Victor Force in Kashmir, South Kashmir, I've handled 14 contacts at one time in 1 day. That is the kind of volume of operations we had. But that is not there today. You need to have more deliberation today. You can't just get a piece of intelligence and go running immediately after that. There has to be an intelligence build up over a period of time, and doesn't matter if terrorists get away. Even if you don't get a contact or you have a missed contact, I'm not one who ever looks at a missed contact as a case of inefficiency. Right? A terrorist has got away, he'll die another day. But I must make sure that I don't have a negative contact. That is a very, very important thing. This aspect of offensive spirit is very important. But offensive spirit, at the end of the day, leading to a ratio of casualties completely adverse against you, is not any achievement that you have got. So now, to tackle the Pir Panjal as such, I think you need to go back to General Hadi Leader, also a very, 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 very proficient SF commander who I operated with in Sri Lanka. I operated with this unit 9 Para SF2. We need to go back to someone like him. We need to go back to a lot of earlier minds, right? And this is what I insist upon. What has happened in the past can be many times revisited now, today again. We need to see how was Hilkaka exactly addressed? How was the Pir Panjal in those days held? How did the Romeo force in those days look at this entire area? What kind of troop density it had? Maybe we just build up that troop density here. Will deliberate operations in the higher reaches of the Pir Panjal pay dividends? I don't think so. And most good infantry officers will probably agree with me that this jungle bashing kind of operation mode doesn't really lead to anything. What we have to do is to starve out these chaps who are sitting on top. They think they've created a fortress in Hilkaka or any other in the Kalakot area and things like that. We've got to get control of this population. This population isn't too much. There's a transitory population of Gujars in that area also. They need to get control of this properly. The RR has to ensure that. And as I said earlier, you need more Para SF here. Now, those who tell me that SF units are not meant to be used in this mode, I think I can always debate with you. when you have a national security challenge in front of you, then the para SF is the best to come forward. Why not put your best resources in front when you need them?
Thank you, sir. I think you hit the nail on the head. We have to take measures to starve out those people in the Pir Panjal and not let them come down and not go after them and do jungle bashing. Jungle bashing is just counter to any kind of normal thinking, especially in CI ops. Okay. Having said that, sir, I think you made some valid points. And the last valid point you made of para SF. So we'll ask a paratrooper, sir, how do you think we could handle SF, para SF? And we've also had a suggestion that maybe get another battalion in here in this area or additional forces. I'm not putting down a figure. And how do you handle this thing with mix of the para SF and normal infantry battalions and RR to handle this entire business of this Pir Panjal? Over to you, General Bhatia, sir.
Yeah, I agree with you. You have the para SF and let them operate. You gain by that. There is a moral ascendancy factor which comes into being. See, if the terrorists are there, they need to be shitting bricks. They need to be scared, and they are scared. The only thing which I totally agree with understand, you have to starve them out. You have to smoke them out. He's got a weapon which is on a maximum range of 300 yards. Why should I contact him? I stay away 300 yards and I smoke him out. I starve him out. I'm in no hurry. But today, because of the pressures, everyone wants to finish off. You get questioned 4 days on, the operation is on. What are you doing? What am I doing? My tactics say, there's no hurry. This chap is fighting in Kalaport. He is not going to go to Karachi. He's not going to go to any other place. वो कालाकोट में है, कालाकोट में ही मरेगा वो. We should have no doubts about it whatsoever. The war casualties are painful. It pains. Right? I'm not talking about SF casualties. I'm talking of all casualties. We have to minimize the casualties. 1:3 is not acceptable. Sorry. We are a professional army. We have done wonders. The world over we recognize us as the best army in the world. But a casualty of 1:3 is not acceptable. Let's face facts. We've got to be honest with ourselves. That is where terrorism will grow. Today, everyone is thinking there is a spike in Kashmir. Sorry, there's no spike, but there were 2 bad days in office. But this can't continue. Put more people. Patience. Give them the confidence. The commanders need to stand up and give confidence to the men. Don't worry, yaar, jo galti ho gayi humse, jo bhi hai, galti ho gayi. He has taken the best of you. But there will be days when he'll take the better of you. जो भी हमें देखिए टेररिज्म में क्या होगा, जो पहली गोली है वो तो टेररिस्ट की है ही है ना, दैट्स अ गिवन. पहली गोली तो आपकी नहीं हो सकती. I hope I'm right, shall understand.
Absolutely, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. I reinforce once again at the cost of General Vinod Bhatia, but General Shankar, what you said was absolutely the smoking part of it, control of the population. You see, these terrorists are dependent on this population for their sustenance. बहुत दफे हुआ है कि हमने ये इनके हाइडआउट पकड़े हैं, उनके अंदर बिरयानी मिली है, बकरे मिले हैं. Where does it come from? All this come from those local villages. कश्मीर में राजवार के अंदर, हफरूदा के अंदर यही हो रहा था. हमने पूरी पॉपुलेशन पे कंट्रोल रखा और फिर देखा कि कहां से लाएंगे ये पानी, कहां से लाएंगे ये बिरयानी. Once biryani and pani is finished off, they will come out. When they come out and contest you, you will have them.
वो कब तक खजूर खाएगा? 2 दिन, 3 दिन, 4 दिन. उसको बाहर आना ही पड़ेगा. उसको पानी चाहिए, उसको फ्यूल चाहिए. ठीक है? So this has to be done. जो मैं बोल रहा हूँ, पहली गोली अगर उसकी है तो सेकंड और आखिरी तो हमारी होनी चाहिए. So patience is the name of the game. Patience. And that's something I think it is. I'm not saying that I'm not criticizing anyone. Sorry, when the people on the ground know more than me, I'm past my use by date. I should not be advising out here. But the fact is, it pains, and we have suffered casualties, and the need is to review it. I'm sure it will be done. The need is to say that look, give the confidence back to them and re-employ the same force. who's suffered casualty, give them another chance. He said, नहीं, doesn't matter, हो गया, अभी आप जाइए, get your things back into action. It can happen, it can have a bad day, it's happened twice, so what? But let us also look at the positives, look at the many operations, impossible operations they've done. And there's no harm at a point of time on your channel or other channels, and as well General Hassan is got fantastic amount of visibility. Let us also talk about the good operations which have been done. There's so many of them.
Oh, yes.
People need to know कि जहां उनको पता नहीं लगा क्या हुआ, मतलब उनके टेररिस्ट को तो पता ही नहीं लगा कि वो कब मरा, कब आया. What is the average life of terrorists in Kashmir? 42 days, 41 days. आप कैलकुलेट कर लीजिए. Once he comes in, उसके महीना, 1.5 महीने में, 2 महीने में उसको हम न्यूट्रलाइज कर देते हैं. So that is the positives of it, and we have to, and through your channels, I think we should take on positive stories to the people. Right. So that is one way of beating the terrorists on the media. Let's also give.
I think what you said is very right, sir. After all, like what then Dua also had said, the contacts have become less. The contacts have become less because they have less, they don't have that capability to mount such kind of operations. And Pakistan is a weak nation today. They also can't, take operations up to the heights of 2000 where it was. And like what General Hasnain said earlier, we are looking at a nation which is just trying to keep the fire going. And we should now get into a mode where we just douse the fire. It will never go off. The embers will be there, but we'll have to keep it just as embers and no more fire. But having said that, General Dua raised an important point of tech int versus human. So I actually, in the evening, I did ask him and quiz him on this particular thing. Look, what are your further thoughts? Please dilate your thoughts on the business of tech int and human. And this is what he had to say.
I'd like to explain that further. As I said earlier, when we did not have mobile phones in J&K, we relied only on human. After mobiles have come in, our tech int has been very effective. But over the period of time, our reliance on tech int has increased, which is a good thing. But it has been at the expense of human. Let me explain that in a sentence or two. When I was a co-commander and I went down to the battalions and brigades, especially battalions and company commanders, I would urge them not to lose sight of human intelligence, the traditional way of cultivating sources, carrying out operational sadbhavna, creating pockets of goodwill so that people would volunteer information to us. That was required. But I'm afraid we were so happy with tech-in, which was accurate, no doubt, that sometimes now the stage has come where terrorists have learned to play the game. And they lure us by tech-int. Then there started a new thing of spoofing. So tech-int is also prone to some disadvantages. On the other hand, if I may point out another fact, that a commanding officer has approximately 16 years service. Today, in 2023, a commanding officer today is of 2005, 2004, 2005 vintage. That means he would be commissioned around that time. These are the officers. They have operated only in the tech-int milieu. They have not operated when we realize the value of human intelligence, cultivating sources that I've been belaboring on. Today's generation has perhaps not gone through those motions to the extent that we have gone. We indulged in human intelligence. So with the result, their reliance on tech-int is nearly total. I mean, it's not only in our context. You see that the world over. When we saw the Israel-Hamas thing, isn't the world aghast at the fact that how come Mossad and their Shin Bet and so much of intelligence machinery, how did they not make out or did not have a whiff of such a huge operation that was planned in such a meticulous manner that they came in and attacked inside Israel. So there also lies the fact, or it also proves the point that I am trying to make. So my point is, as I have been saying earlier, when I was commanding the corps, that we need to take human intelligence hand in hand along with technical intelligence. Both need to corroborate each other, and let's not have we should not have taken it at the expense of human intelligence or cultivation of sources.
Right. So we've heard his view on Tekken, and he is also in a way saying go back to the past. So the main thing जो आज निकल आया है कि the dynamics of the entire game has changed. What was in earlier a very intense low intensity conflict proxy war today is actually a low intensity conflict. It is so very low that many of us, and those people who are handling it probably are not able to, visualize what it was earlier to what it is today. And because of this lack of contact, lack of complete action, they really have to relearn as to what was done earlier. And that's what all three of you have said. We need to revisit our basics. Whether you want to tackle them through intelligence, to improve our intelligence, or to starve and smoke them out from Pir Panjal, or to employ special forces, or to do things imaginatively. I think there's a lot of revisit to the whole thing to go back. And we also have to rebalance between the tech and the human. And I wouldn't say the tech and the human, between technology and the human form of warfare, which is the fundamental form of warfare, which will never change. Right? We have to rediscover our roots back, and that's about all. We've had a few unfortunate things because, like what General Bhatia said, the first bullet is always the terrorist, and it is that first bullet which has got the casualties in the past 2-3 incidents. With a bit of a change in the way things are, and our army is a great learner. And all of you will agree that the way we have learned from our own mistakes, we've always come out trumps. And I don't think we would have achieved so much as a nation and as a force if we had not learned from our own mistakes. These are just bumps which do happen. A certain amount of ups and downs do happen. And I am very confident the Indian Army will come out trumps one way or the other. In fact, there's only one way that the Indian Army comes out trumps. If the Indian Army had not come out trumps a few years back, I don't think even Article 370 could have been, scrapped. Otherwise, there was no way any government in Delhi could have done this. Now that it is scrapped, the Article 370, we've held even a G20 meet out there, right? And recently, I met a friend of mine who said, look, I asked him, where did you go? I have not seen you for some time. He said, look, I went to Srinagar. And what did you do there? He said, I went and spent some time in the Lal Chowk. I said, why? He says, I never seen Lal Chowk in my life. I've gone through Srinagar so many times. So that's something that tells you a lot about the changed state. And this, whatever is happening in Pir Panjal is something which we have to ultimately stamp out, and we have to change our tactics. And if you saw what the Northern Army Commander did say, he said, yes, he's going to go back and do what he has. We leave it to those people who are in chair to do what they're supposed to do. All of us as veterans can only contribute with our experience and put it back. So your final words, because before I take a few questions, Hasnain sir.
Okay,
a couple of sentences and then we'll...
Yeah, just a very few sentences. Firstly, I want to reinforce what General Satish Duvas has said. Right? Human intelligence. And I will only leave one word of advice for people who are there today. The interface between the Rashtra Rifles, the rifle, the maximum, not so much the SF. The Rashtra Rifles and the SOG of the Jammu and Kashmir Police. That has to be ensured. It has to be the strongest. I have no doubt it must be. But if there's any dilution anywhere because of the improving situation, I would strongly recommend go back to that. The SOG is your greatest asset as far as human intelligence is concerned. Secondly, one piece of advice which I'm giving to someone who is going to be looking after a lot of things there in that area very soon. I have told him the system which I always followed, I think can make a difference. That is, every CO, every commander, every division commander must go back to 4 to 5 people before him who have been in that appointment and just consult them. You will find pearls of wisdom will come your way. Those pearls which were never given on paper, which were never there in the handing taking over notes, but which are there on which people have reflected over the times. Get that in your mind. Go back to basics. When you merge all this information along with basics, you will come out the winner.
General Bhatia, sir, your views.
No, there's no doubt about it. I think things are on the improve, and we should take the positives, and we have to take the negatives on our side. There's no doubt about it. And let me quote Atta on this. India has won, but Pakistan has not lost. His quote, it's not mine, it's the original, right? And I always, I say it openly. There's something which sums up everything. We may have won, we have won, but Pakistan has not lost. So please understand that the terrorism is there, will continue to be there, and it's not going away very soon, right? So let us keep operating at our peak. If we do not have contacts, doesn't matter. In 25 days, I always visited units with no contact. So one day my staff also asked me, he said, sir, contact, वहाँ आप वहाँ जा रहे हो? मैंने कहा जहाँ contact में जाने की जरूरत ही नहीं है वहाँ पर. People are already alert out there, right? So there is a problem when you do not get contacts. So when you get a contact, there is always a rush, there is always a speed of operations, and that is where I think some sort of a caution has to be built in. And the caution is, take your time. Where is the hurry? This chap from Kalakot will not go anywhere else. He will stay in Kalakot only. Where is the hurry to make sure that he ends on 23rd of 26th of November? Let it be 27, 28, 29 November. How does it matter? So that patience, honestly, it's a game of patience. But it's a game of patience only. You keep at it 5 days, 7 days, 10 days. Let everyone say media. Let them say क्या हो रहा है. How does it matter? The point is zero casualties. We have zero tolerance on human rights. We should minimize the casualties. How we minimize the casualties is something which the Indian Army will have to keep looking at constantly, reviewing it constantly, and it is painful. And we should not accept casualties in many ways. We say, okay, it doesn't matter. आज भाग गया है, कल वो पकड़ लेंगे उसको. Where is the problem? There is no problem whatsoever.